Okay, fully aware that I'm the guy standing between you and dinner, so I will try to keep it lively and energetic as much as I possibly can. Chuck Prescott, Prescott Sales Pilot. Typically, I am working with business-to-business clients, typically working on more complex sales. So most of the concepts I'm talking about are in a context where there's going to be multiple touches, multiple people that you're working with. But I think the concepts that I'm going to be talking about are pretty useful generically, maybe on a smaller scale, but still I think they provide a kind of an interesting approach. So when I'm working with clients, what I'm typically trying to help them do is build the business that they visualize. What do you look like in 2 years? What do you look like in 3 years? How do you get from where you are now to where you want to be? And what I'm typically trying to help them do is figure out how to contact, get in touch with, and close business with their very best prospects. And so typically I'm talking with people that maybe have a salesperson, they're considering hiring a salesperson, or they need to get better at doing the sales themselves. And so the first thing we're looking at, and apparently I'm not doing that correctly, so we'll just go the old-fashioned way. So what I'm typically trying to figure out with and help them understand is what are their best prospects, or what does their best business look like? And this is how I paint the picture. Lots of different ways to do it. But typically what I'm looking for is a mutually beneficial relationship with a customer who understands that they have a big problem that's worth solving, and that you are uniquely qualified to help them solve that problem. So that's obviously a best case scenario. And there's going to be lots of times when you're going to have customers that don't meet that criteria perfectly. And so, you'll be doing business with somebody that maybe doesn't fully appreciate that you're uniquely capable. Maybe it is a little bit of a commodity, so there's multiple people that can do the same thing. But at the end of the day, the lower the alignment is in this situation, the less profitable that relationship is going to be for you. And so what I want people to kind of understand is how a high-value business gets built. Most times when people are launching their business for the first time, revenue, just give me revenue. I'll take revenue from anywhere I can find it. And I'm just trying to get enough to keep the doors open. I'm trying to get my employees paid. I'm trying to make this work. So I will take revenue from anywhere. But then as they grow their business, they get to a point where they're like, wow, we are working really hard. We are doing a lot of stuff. Our customers mostly love us, but I'm not making any money. Where's my profitability? Where is how is all this work supposed to be paying off? And so the first step, what we try to do first is we start to figure out buckets. Who are your very best customers? And your very best customer is not necessarily your biggest revenue customer. 9 times out of 10, your biggest revenue customer is such a huge pain, and they're resource intensive, and they require the energy of your people. And you look at it, and you actually, once you start to figure out what resources connect to which customers, you start to figure out that they're not very profitable whatsoever. You can't kick them to the curb because they help you keep the doors open. But that isn't the way you're going to be able to live your life 2, 3, 4 years from now. They will burn you out, and they'll make you want to just say no mas. So what we try to do is we try to identify what are those best prospects? Who are the people that really value what you do, who really understand your expertise, that really get why you're valuable? And what are they willing to pay? Why are they willing to pay more to get you rather than your competitor? So once you kind of put it in that lens, the first step might be kind of ugly. You've got lots of low value business. You've got a couple of people that are really what you want to do. Then you got some that are kind of in the middle. But the truth is, the first step might be ugly, but it's way better than being at risk, because not knowing is a huge issue. So then eventually, what I help them do is I help them direct their activities, their sales activities, whether they're salespeople or themselves. We start trying to direct their resources and their activities towards that high value business. How do you find the people? And we'll get into some strategies that we build into this. But the idea is to eventually move to a point where the bulk of your business is coming from your high-value prospects, your high-value customers. And you're starting to minimize and say no to people that clearly are not going to be your best prospects. Personally, I don't think you have a real business until you start saying no. Until you start saying, I'm sorry, I don't help folks like you. I help people that really have this problem. That's what I help solve. I don't, there are lots of people that can help you with that. I help you with this. And you'll be amazed at how many people will say, all of a sudden that will change their perspective on the value that you offer and what you can do for them. And in a lot of cases, you'll turn people around. But until you start saying no to commodity business or business that isn't a perfect fit or really misaligned with what you do, then you're going to be chasing your tail and you're going to be down around at the beginning of this curve. So that's the first step. That's why I do what I do, because I see too many people that are out there just chasing their tail, spinning their wheels, spending lots of energy, and not seeing a lot of benefit for it. So, what is a high-value sales process? So I return to my vision of what a high-value customer is or what high-value business is. And now what we need to do is kind of reverse engineer. Let's start to translate that into what we need to be doing when we're out talking to prospects. So let's translate our strategy. Let's translate them into sales activities. So the first thing is you have to have somebody who has a problem worth solving. This is where the CRM comes in. This is where the data comes in. How do you do the lookalike? I've got these great prospects. These people that I work with are awesome. I love to have 100 of them. So, okay, what's our common attribute? What industry are they in? How many employees do they have? What is their profile? And so now we have to start getting creative. Where can we source that data? What convention should I be going to? How can I get a list of people that fit that profile so that I have started to focus my energy less on people that are probably not going to be great prospects and more on those people that are probably going to be prospects. Now the second part of that is not just the data, but when you engage somebody and you start to talk to them and you think that they might be a good prospect, but how do you start to boil that a little bit down further? So now it comes down to what kind of questions you're asking. How can you ask them to get them to talk about the problem you think that they might have and to start figuring out if they're going to truly value what you do? You can't just ask them because you're probably not going to get really good at a very accurate response back. So creating that strategy to get them engaged and to get them talking about this potential problem that they might have, that's what I would call the qualifying strategy. How do I figure out whether it's worth me to start sharing about me? Because if you're not a great prospect, it's not worth that time. I might give you a general statement, but now I'm ready to move on to the next prospect. So that's the first strategy. And here's the picture. So this is just the starting to winnow out the people that you're just saying, okay, you might need it, but chances are you won't, and focusing your energy on the people that are most likely to need what you're selling. The second part, and again, typically in a more complex sales process, you don't need just them to have a problem we're solving. You need to have them understand that they have a problem we're solving. How are you going to help them justify the expense of whatever it is that you're selling? What are the symptoms? What is it that might be happening that they're not quite realizing is connected to the problem that you're going to solve? What's the underlying cause of that symptom, and how are you going to help them target that? What are the dollars associated with that problem? What are the emotions associated with that problem? Should they be scared? Is that something where they're truly at risk because they don't quite understand what that symptom is an indicator of? Should they be angry? Are they working with someone that's overcharging them and you're the solution to that problem? Should they be happy? Should they be excited that this is a big opportunity for them, and if they work with you, they can capture that opportunity? So if you can tie the dollars with an emotion, what I describe this as a self-diagnosis strategy. You want them to kind of reach the conclusion themselves that they need help. You can't just tell them. Most people don't respond very well to that, to say the least. So how can you ask questions? How can you draw it out of them? How can you get them engaged on that problem and start to realize for themselves that they have a problem worth solving? So that's the second strategy. Now, you need that customer to understand that you are uniquely qualified to solve that problem. So that obviously requires you to be uniquely qualified to solve that problem. And that comes down to niche. What's your niche? What's your specialty? What are my best prospects? Why do they value what I do? Understanding why they buy from you, and being able to translate that into what I describe as an evidence strategy. When you're talking to people, how can you demonstrate that you've been there, that you've done that, you've got the t-shirt? Now, this isn't just in the one-to-one communication, and this is the same for the self-diagnosis strategy. All of the things that we're talking about, the email marketing can be built into this. When you're sending out postcards, all of this is trying to do one of these things. And for me, the biggest piece, and when you get your leads in the door, you still need to be able to talk the talk and have the conversation that's going to demonstrate that you've been there and done that. If you are able to help somebody understand that they have a problem, that goes a long way towards proving that you are the one to solve it. So all of these things are kind of all tied together. All of the different strategies for touching base with your best prospects, they should all tie together. They should all come into one sales process. And they're all kind of self-reinforcing, and they're all building toward the same thing. But think about how you're going to prove that you are special. Don't just make promises. We have great customer service. We have the best product. How are you actually going to prove that? Until you just blah, 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 blah. Because your competitors are saying the exact same things 9 out of 10 times. What is your strategy for actually proving? Are you willing to throw out a guarantee? Are you willing to offer a money-back warranty? Customer stories are great, but you got to do something. You got to put your money where your mouth is. You got to support what you're saying, and you have to have a strategy for getting that in front of your prospects. So a mutually beneficial relationship. This is a big thing. Your best prospect might truly value what you're doing, but you, for some reason, got into a relationship with them where they demand and demand and demand, and you give and give and give, and you haven't set it up so that it's actually profitable for you. So you have to understand, what does the contract look like? What does the arrangement look like? This is part of having been there and done that. If you say, I help my customers do A, B, and C, this is what my project looks like, and here's the contract, and you have it all laid out, that's going to be very assuring to anybody that you're talking to. So you have to know what that end relationship is going to look like. What does our business relationship look like when you start doing business with me? How am I going to support you? How are we going to get you on board? How are we going to take your project from the beginning to the end, and you're going to have what you want? All of that is the relationship that you have to think through, because if you're trying to do it on the fly after the fact, that's when problems come up. That's when you're going to get in big trouble. If you haven't fully thought through how they're going to get supported, then you're not going to have that long-term relationship, or you're not going to have that big. This isn't going to be your perfect prospect anymore. They're going to be somebody that's angry and probably talking poorly about you. So thinking about what that relationship eventually looks like is so important, and having that strategy to make sure that you're moving somebody towards that is a huge piece of what we're working toward.
Chuck?
Yes?
Question for you. Just from sheer experience being in business as long as I've been doing this too, do you think that you have to have the subtle balance of when do you pull the contract card to say, okay, we're deviating, we can't come here, we can't go over there, or when do you let it get a little fuzzy because of the deep relationship you have with this really high value customer? I'm just curious, how do you teach somebody in newer business that isn't as used to doing something like that? Where's that line?
Well, I think you always have to have some flexibility, and having part of that can be part of your pricing strategy. So you've got a part A and you've got a part B. You can have this or you cannot have it, kind of an a la carte piece. So you want to think through as much of it as you can, but I think you also can react in situations where they want more or they want something different. But if they want something too different, then you have to start thinking about, is this perfectly aligned with what I want to do? Is this something that I can build on and build into a business? This is a one-off thing. It better be really, really profitable, because otherwise you are kind of going outside of your lines for, it becomes low value because it's no longer what you do best. You're not going to do a lot of it. So do you really want that business? So you have to be careful. I don't want to tell you not to go after revenue or new opportunities, but you just have to be careful that it's a good match for what you actually want to be doing. The other part of that closing strategy is know when it's dead. You don't want to keep chasing business forever and ever and ever, which means that your closing strategy should indicate some kind of an ultimatum. Hey, deal's out there, the deal's out there till the end of the quarter, the deal's out there till the end of March. You have to have some strategy to create the urgency to get them to do the deal. And to understand that if they're not doing the deal this time, then it's just time to let it go, move on to your next prospect, maybe reach out to them again in 6 months. But more salespeople have gone to the sales yard graveyard chasing stuff that never had a chance to close because they just next month. So at some point your process needs to tell you that this is something you're writing off for the time being, and you're just letting it go because they must not be a good fit, because otherwise they would have signed the offer that you put in front of them. This last one is the piece that ties it all together. This is when you're actually talking to somebody. You need to be doing things that are demonstrating that they have a problem or helping them understand that they have a problem we're solving, that are demonstrating your expertise, proving that you are the right choice for them. It needs to involve ways that you're starting to close them. Hey, if I could save you 25% on your phone bill, would you be willing to meet with me? Closing questions, always moving people through the pipeline. Knowing what you're going to say, having that at least somewhat prepared and practiced is vital, because if you're going to a conversation and you're just kind of stumbling around trying to pull them into that process, you're not going to create the confidence that's going to get you business. This is stuff that not only needs to be thought through, but it needs to be practiced. The more times you get out and the more times you have these conversations, the better it's going to get, and the more you're going to understand your own business and what it is that you offer. So if you're getting tons of leads, if BusyWeb is bringing you lots of leads, and you're sitting on a pile full of leads, but for some reason your sales reps aren't closing them, or you're not being able to turn them into dollars, then maybe it's time to sit down and think about what it is, what those conversations need to look like, what's missing. Why aren't these people that have already demonstrated some interest, why are they not becoming good customers? Is it lack of alignment? Is it do we not have a good pricing option? What's kind of the piece that's missing? Which of these strategies is not closing the deal for us? Eventually, and this goes back to the CRM, you want to understand, and the interesting part about a sales process is it's not really about you at all. It's entirely about what your customer understands, what they know. So matching up with the buying process, understanding what it is that they're going to have to understand about themselves. What is it that they're going to have to understand about you before they're going to reach a point where they're going to be willing to do business with you? And then building your CRM with those steps. So if we break it out into 3 or 4 steps, and it's not just, yes, I gave a presentation, therefore it's a 30. That's a pretty common Salesforce thing. Yes, they have a proposal. Yes, we had a first meeting. None of those are useful, even a little bit. Does this customer have a problem we're solving? Have I established that fact? If I send a proposal without knowing that they have a problem we're solving, I have just wasted however much time it took to put that proposal together. It's no point. So one of your steps should be something that looks just like that. Do they understand it? And something similar with it, do they figure out, have they figured out yet that I'm special? So you have to start checking those boxes. And as you do, you'll find yourself working your way up to high value sales and building your business the way you want to build your business. So that's what I got. Thanks.